everybody. Rodney Boyd, what's happening, buddy?
Hey man, look, we are on our way back to Jefferson City. For those that missed the excitement, well, spring break is over and session resumes today. So back to work in Jefferson City, man.
So they had a spring break in Jefferson City?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, every year the legislature has a calendared spring recess where they sort of step away from the Capitol for about a week and people go deal with their families. It's usually time. And remember, people forget this. We have a citizen legislature, which means these folks go up part-time. Most of them have families, and so a lot of them have their kids that are off for spring break. They haven't seen their spouses. So they take that week. Usually it's tied to spring breaks with the school systems and allows folks to go home and deal with their families. That break is over. It was last week. It resumes today. And, before the break, Jamie, you and I were talking about some of the big issues, labor reform, right to work, prevailing wage. A lot of that stuff was dealt with, but most of the big issues are still hanging out there to be addressed in what is effectively the next 7 weeks of session. So they had a break. It's over.
Can I ask you a question? So the Monday after Easter, that morning, they're driving back to Jefferson City?
The Monday after Easter, that Monday is a one-day break. They go back in that Tuesday.
Right, okay.
They go back in that Tuesday. So it's a 3-day weekend for the Easter break.
Right.
But they go back in that Tuesday. Yes, sir.
Are they off the Thursday before Easter?
No, they work the Thursday before Easter. They
Okay.
work the Thursday before Easter. Yes, sir.
I was
it's
just
really a 3-day.
I got you. Okay, I was just wondering because normally Easter break is a little longer for them, so they had their break already. They're gonna have the Easter 1-day break on Easter because I remember this because I remember Easter break was the time that when I was doing the investigation a long time ago, and this was on how these guys were taking these lobbyist gifts in the formulation of liquor. And in some cases, even Yoo-Hoo chocolate soda, a couple of them did.
Jamie, I actually remember that. I think it's probably out there on YouTube somewhere. That was a very interesting. I remember that, actually. I remember watching that investigation, and you found the Yoo-Hoo and the liquor behind the couch.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Well, because they were the guys that all had access to, I actually watched as people were standing outside of a lawmaker's office, not able to see him, and yet the guy with the dolly of 3 cases of beer and a box of Courvoisier was able to walk right in. Didn't even but the Yoo-Hoo chocolate soda thing was funny because I had to wait. Some of them because I would go down to Jefferson City, and once they knew I was down there, they all would hide, so I couldn't talk to them. So I had to wait until some of them came home. And that was the uncomfortable moment when I remember talking to the great Brian May, who really is a good guy, by the way. And I had to hit him up over Easter. So I harassed him over the Easter break. He's like, "Dude, it's Easter." I go, "I don't care. I need to find out what the deal is with your cases of Yoo-Hoo chocolate soda that you're getting."
I remember, and the great Brian May is now Judge Brian May, sitting on the court in St. Louis County. I remember that interview very well, like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
I remember you showing the liquor being dollied in, and the folks couldn't get in to see their rep at the time. That was Rep O.L. Shelton. Hey, was it?
O.L. Shelton, I remember him. Yeah.
That was O.L. Shelton that had all that booze being brought in, and people couldn't get in, but the liquor guy could. And I remember you pointing that out.
O.L. Shelton loved him some Grand Marnier. That's what he liked.
He loved Grand Marnier. He loved liquor, and he loved getting it for free. The House this session passed a bill to ban lobbyist gifts, and just so you know, that bill is sitting in the Senate with several other big ideas that are yet to be passed by the Senate. And that's really what the focus is going to be when we go back. A lot of the big issues, whether it's the education reform, ethics reform, some other labor bills, an Uber bill, are all kind of really dangling in the Senate, and the Senate will have to take those big issues up. But if the Senate passes that lobbyist ethics reform bill that the House passed, there'll be no more liquor, no more Yahoo, no more gifts at all.
Yeah, they used to actually write out their orders. Because I saw them on like pieces of paper. They used to write their orders out and then have them delivered. And there was nothing wrong with drinking, obviously. But what happened is it replaced actual discussions. So instead of actually really lobbying, all you had to do was send a bunch of liquor over, or Yoo-Hoo chocolate soda in the case of a couple people. All you had to do was send over, gifts instead of you didn't even talk to people at that point. It was really pretty interesting.
Jamie, I think people who remember that era, I think your investigative reporting was the first time anybody had put that on the airwaves so openly. And it did cause a chill. It caused, I think Brian stopped getting the Yahoo for a while. Earl never stopped getting the booze because he didn't care.
Yeah, I
but
know.
I think you certainly affected the distribution of Yahoo into Brian May's office for the rest of that session. And it caused a lot of other people to be very careful about that. But that was the first time anybody had really seen how that works. And some legislators said, hey, this is just the way it is, and others changed their behavior. Very interesting to see how that story impacted the legislature.
Yeah, OL was interesting. He was like Danny Staples, because you'd go and interview them about something, and they would look at you like they didn't give a flying rip what you were talking about. Like, OL was great. I mean, he was very entertaining, even if he was as wrong as he was always a great interview because he was just like, he didn't care a whip. He would sit there and, if he could, he would have sat there and just drank out of the bottle in front of me, telling me he didn't care.
In your interview, he offered you a drink, and he invited any of his constituents that were at the Capitol to stop by his office and have a drink. That was classic O.L. Shelton.
Yeah, it's like Danny Staples, God love him. He would you couldn't smoke in the Capitol, but Danny Staples didn't care. So he would walk through the hallways with that cigarette kind of cupped in his hand, like you'd never really see it. And one time we were down there
with the smoke going up his arm.
Yeah, right, exactly, up his arm. And you'd say, hey, because we did, some gotcha stuff on there, like these guys all disobeying the rules and everything else. And he would sit there and he didn't care. I love Danny Staples, the late great Danny Staples. All right, buddy. Well, we didn't. Yeah, I know. We didn't talk much about legislation, but.
Well, but we will.
That's all right.
We're back now. We'll pick up on this next week, and we'll talk about where some of the big issues are. There are some significant things yet to be done, and we'll see how they play out. A lot of it's in the Senate, All
right, buddy. Rodney Boyd, love you, man. At Rodney Boyd, also host of Insider Talk, always at noon to 1 on Sundays. Safe travels, bud, and keep in touch. 969-9797-866-455-9797.